Welcome everybody to my channel. My name is Rainer and this is Rainier Books. It is time for a check-in about the things that I have read and the things that I'm planning to read and the things that I'm currently reading. So let's do this, ladies and gentlemen. I finished 2 books in the last couple of days and I want to talk a little bit about them. I will make a single review about both of these books that I liked a lot. The first book I finished was Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. Barbara Kingsolver, former winner of the Women's Prize, has published her new novel, Demon Copperhead, last year. It is longlisted for the Women's Prize of 2023. It is a story about, DC, you know, the initials remind us of David Copperfield. It has huge similarities and not similarities to Charles Dickens's classical novel David Copperfield from the 19th century, classical English, classical British literature. This is American literature. This is the sort of transportation, the setting of a David Copperfield-like story, which is the story of a very poor boy, a boy who grows up in very poor conditions in England of the 19th century to America of the 20th century, to our time more or less, to Appalachia, to the state of Virginia, and to Lee County in the state of Virginia, which is one of the poorest counties in the United States, as I understand. We have a lot of poverty. Demon Copperhead is born by an 18-year-old girl or young woman who is living in a trailer home in Lee County, in a trailer park. She will die very soon, that is no spoiler, of an overdose, and Demon will be alone because he never met his father and he will have problems. He's growing up in foster homes. And Kingsolver has written a powerful novel of 500-ish, that's the new word, 545 pages, that transports Dickens's novel into the 21st century, actually. Sorry, it was born in the 20th century. It is very timely because it reminds us of the great poverty that exists in the richest country in the world. It's powerful in the language. It's first person narrated by Demon Copperhead himself, whose actual name is Damon Fields, but everybody calls him Copperhead because of his red hair. And he's a football player, and we meet so many characters in this book. I will talk more about this in my segment, I've Read Something, where I give a single review about the book. The second one that I finished 2 days ago, I think, is one of my favorite authors. Definitely after this one, I would call him one of my favorite authors. Having read 3 books of this author, which were all amazing to me, Mr. Wilder and Me, Middle England, and now his latest novel, Bournville. This is the British author Jonathan Coe, who happens to be also a man who's only 1 year older than I am. And he asks himself the question, Bournville is very, if you are not from England, you probably won't know Bournville. It is close to Birmingham. It is a suburb of Birmingham. And from Bournville came the British chocolate, the English chocolate company Cadbury, which is very important to people in the UK, and I didn't know how important that actually was. And there was something called the Chocolate War inside the EU, when the European Union somehow decided to call Cadbury products not chocolate because there's too much vegetable fat. That what's the EU has decided, too much vegetable fat and not enough cocoa inside, so that the EU refused to name this product, Cadbury's products, chocolate. And it's a great novel about a family, the Lamb family, 3 or 4 generations even. It is a story that he has connected to 7 points, 7 occasions, as he calls it, in the British history, among them the end of the Second World War, from the end of the Second World War to the 75th anniversary of VE Day. A span of 75 years is covered in this book, Bournville, which shows what a great author this man is, how he is able to connect history with the lives of normal people, how he is able to create portraits of characters that make you feel warm, that make you feel related, that make you feel sad and happy for them. It's really, he's an amazing author, and I like to talk more about it in my single review of this wonderful book, Bournville by Jonathan Coe. Books that I'm currently reading, this is kind of sometimes decided by the Stockholm Library, what I read, because I have ordered several books, I've reserved several books, and once I get them, I learn if I have 4 weeks to read them or if I only have 2 weeks to read them. You get only 2 weeks if this book is very demanded by other people. If there are many readers who want to read this book, then you will only have 2 weeks to finish it. And so I got 2 books recently that I have to finish within 2 weeks. One of them being The Shards by Bret Easton Ellis. I'm about 100 pages, 110 pages into this huge, big book about, also, it's about 580, 590 pages. The Shards by Bret Easton Ellis. It's the first book by Bret Easton Ellis that I'm reading. He's a very famous author, he's a best-selling author, but he has not written a novel for 13 years now. It's his first work in 13 years. And The Shards is a first-person narration story beginning in 1981 when a character named Brett, we don't know if it's Bret Easton Ellis or not, when a character named Brett goes to high school in Los Angeles, California, in a very rich and posh high school. He goes to a high school called Buckley, which really exists. I read that Buckley has about $55,000 tuition fee for all those who attend Buckley per year. So it's a high school for very rich kids. And from the beginning, it is clear that something bad is going to come from the year 1980, 1981 and onwards, and that Brett, sort of the first-person narrator, is getting into the story, is going to live through something bad, he and his friends. And it has to do with 2 things, with a serial killer called the Trawler and another student named Robert Mallory that comes to the school as a new student coming from Chicago. Bret Easton Ellis is really good, I think, in the 100 pages that I read, in describing the situation, the atmosphere, the characters, and also the way that people behave in this circle of rich kids. I really like it until now. It is named as a thriller, and of course serial killer, stuff like that is very easily put into the thriller genre, but I think this is more than just a thriller, this book by Bret Easton Ellis. The second book that I'm reading, because I only have 2 weeks and as I said, the library is dominating what I read right now, is a book that is nominated for the International Women's Prize, would be the second one on the long list that I finished. If I finish it, I'm not sure, but I only have read like 20 pages, so I make my decisions usually after 50, 60 pages if I read onwards. This is Trespasses by Louise Kennedy from Ireland. It's an Irish book, plays out in Belfast in 1975, I think, at least in the beginning. It's Belfast, the Troubles are going on, bad times for Ireland and the Irish and the British, who are involved in the Troubles, of course, by occupying this part of the country. It's the time when Paul McCartney makes his song Give Ireland Back to the Irish. It's a very political time, a very troublesome time, very violent time, and this is about a love story, Trespasses, in this times of the Troubles between the main character, a woman called Kushla and someone else that I haven't met yet in the beginning of this novel. So these are the 2 that I try to read as much as possible until Sunday, until the next check-in to this channel. The plans after finishing Trespasses and Bret Easton Ellis' The Shards is that I read again from my shelves. After finishing The Shards and Trespasses, my plan is right now to read Fire Rush by Jacqueline Crooks, nominated for the Women's Prize, and to read the National Book Award winner of 2023-22, The Rabbit Hutch by Tess Gunty. These 2 books from my shelves are very high on the list right now of my TBR. What are you reading? Have you read Trespasses? Have you read The Shards by Bret Easton Ellis? I haven't seen so much about this one on my booktube, in my booktube sphere that I'm visiting. Have you read Demon Copperhead, or have you read Bournville? I haven't heard so much about Bournville either. So I'm curious about that. Please drop me a comment in the section down below. I hope that you stay tuned to the channel, that you subscribe to it, and that you keep watching the videos. It helps a lot, and it sort of motivates a lot to go on and on and on. Thank you very much, and have a good day. Bye-bye.